everyone, it's Lisa, and today is Watercolor Wednesday, and we're going to paint this night sky silhouette scene. So to get set up, what I did first was choose the colors that I was going to work with, and I chose lemon yellow, vermilion, ultramarine, violet, and Paynes Grey. And I've also added a dollop of white on the corner, and I'm just using an inexpensive student set of colors. And you can also work with the paints that come on a pan, but this is just what I'm working with. So I've got myself set up here with paint, and I have taped down my watercolor paper because I do find that that works better. Gives me a nice border around the edge of my work when I'm done, and it also keeps it from wrinkling too much because I'm using not really expensive watercolor paper. Really expensive paper is a lot thicker and it doesn't wrinkle as much. You can get it in pads and all kinds of fun things, but we're just using affordable materials. And I've got a nice glass of water and a kitchen towel. And of course here now to work with, I've got some brushes. I've got a large flat brush, smaller flat brush, and just a liner brush here as well. So let's see if those will do the trick, and let's get started. So what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to work with my largest brush, and I'm just going to paint on some water just to get my paper ready for these colors. So I'm just going to float water all across the top of this here. I'm going to stop before the bottom because this is where my sky is going to be, and I am going to put some land at the front. I'm just going to wet it again because my paper will absorb this water fairly quickly. So just to get it nicely wetted, I'll just float enough water on here. I think that's probably good. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with my lightest color, and I'm going to start off with yellow because, you know, red sky at night, sailor's delight. We're going to see some yellow in the sky during the sunset. So I'm just adding some water here to my yellow, and I'm not going to use much of this at all, just a little streak of yellow here at the front of my sky. So just going to float that on here. Just kind of casual, doesn't have to be precise, and that might be it. So let's see now. I'm just going to clean my brush, and I'm going to move over to my vermilion red. So again, I'm just going to wet this down, mix in the water, and I'm going to place that in and around this yellow section. So I'm just using a kitchen plate for my palette, and I like doing this because it gives me a true sense of what the color is like. I'm mixing the yellow with the orange here just to give me a little bit more of some variety here, lightening up my colors. So this is as much light in the sky as I'm going to have. The rest of my sky is going to be quite dark. So now we get to have some fun with two of my favorite colors, which are the Ultramarine Blue, which might be my favorite color, but I actually think violet is my favorite color. So here I am just adding some water. You could do this on your pan paints as well. When I'm working with pans, I wet my paint on the pan and then I take it over to a palette to work with the thinned out version, just because then I can control how much water is in the paint. If you work directly from your pan, you're probably going to end up with thickness that you didn't intend to have. Okay, so now I'm just going to add blue because the sky is blue, and I'm just going to float this blue sky sort of everywhere around. And I'm putting quite a bit of color down, and I don't mind if it's a little bit lumpy or puddly or thicker in some areas than others and darker. Just trying to get a nice variety here in my sky. This is all the blue area. And we'll probably come back over this again a bit later because watercolors dry lighter than they go on. So we might want to add another layer of this. All right, so cleaning my brush again, and I'm going to flip over to violet. And yes, I saw some water drip on my work, but you know, with this watercolors, so it's no problem. So now I'm adding some nice purple into my sky here. Puddles and bits and dribbles of purple all through the sky. It's like a beautiful sunset here. Maybe it's the tropics. I don't know. Where do you suppose this awesome sunset is taking place? We might even leave some areas here where we can see we can see some lights coming through from purple to blue, a little more water. And I'm going to blend these two together, this purple and the blue, just to get a little bit of a variety here. And I'll bring it right in very close to my, orange and yellow. Let it blend on in. And now I'm going to use my Paynes Grey, and I'm just going to pull some of this super dark. I'm going to try working with it on a more diluted version at first, just because you can always add more color. Taking color off is much harder than adding. So I like it already. Do you see how this is kind of bringing itself into the wet area? Because that's, the paint is going to go where the water is. That's how watercolors work. So the fact that I'm working wet on wet here enables my sky colors to really blend in with each other. And I'm just going to try to keep this around the edges a bit, because I really want to keep that yellow, pretty yellow in the sky, especially in the low horizon. And I'm bringing the dark in from the edges, and I'm thickening up the paint here. I'm bringing more paint, less water onto my brush. I'm just going to float a bit more of this in. So, and as you can see, I'm working with a really big brush for most of this so far. I've got some smaller ones, but haven't needed them yet. This is just a pretty, pretty sky. It's got all of these variations of purple and blue, gray. And now down here, I haven't painted it all yet, but this is going to be in silhouette, because at night we can't really see the colors or the details of the horizon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to stop painting, and I'm going to let this dry. And then I may add some more dark Paynes Grey after I see how much color has set into this painting. But I may find that it's not dark enough once it's had a chance to dry. But I'm hoping to leave these purple and blues seeping through into the gray, and probably just want more darkness at the edges of my sky. So as I said, I'm just going to let this sit for now, and I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll come back. Alright, so I'm back, and my paint has dried. You can tell if your paint is dry if you touch it and it feels room temperature. If it feels cold, then your paint is actually still wet, and you don't want to do this next step with wet paint. You want to make sure you're working with dry paint. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the horizon and the skyline, and because I think maybe it's dark enough in these dark areas. I can always add a little wash later, but I really like the bright pop of the sunset here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work with my brush, with my wide brush again, and I'm working with Paynes Grey, and I'm just going to keep it super thick working through here. So I'm just pulling this, diluting it with a bit of water, keeping it nice and thick on my brush. So I'm going to fill in full on Paynes Grey in the front section of my painting. Just going to pull it everywhere here. And now I'm going to use the edge of my brush, and I'm going to come right over my my violet, and I'm going to paint the hills and the skyline of this landscape, just like this. And I'm just going to keep on floating this along and up over here into the corner. So now you can see that we have just a full-on solid landscape. So there's options here of what you can do at this point. If you would like to include some details, maybe there are some trees. So I'm just going to use this flat edge of my brush and just make a line here that would indicate that there's a tree there, and another one here. I'm just going to use this brush here to kind of give some tree stalks, and then you can switch over to a fine liner brush, and working still with Paynes Grey, because everything on the landscape here now is going to be gray. You can just fill in some of the detail of these trees that are sitting on the mountainside or the edge of the horizon. I'm not going to put too many details here, just a hint. All the way through. So these are probably pine trees because they're kind of triangle shape along the way. And you can do some more over on the other side. I wouldn't put too many really at all, but what might be kind of fun actually, just going to get enough paint on here. I might need a little more Paynes Grey. I just got an idea. This is the great thing about painting from your imagination, is that you can become inspired by your own art. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more Paynes Grey. Alright, so I've got a little dollop of it here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a close-up tree, something that's in the foreground. I'm going to put it right over here on the side of my painting. So I think it's probably, we're so close to it that it's going to go right out the top. So here I go. It's just going to be, here we come down with the tree trunk. It's hitting the edge of my page because I don't want to see the whole tree. Just like this. And then we can bring in some really high branches. We're standing pretty much underneath this tree. So close to it. So the branches are going to be up high like this. We're only just going to see the bottom edge of this high branch coming out this way. So branches are thicker closer to the tree, and as they come out, they get thinner. And of course, branches are unpredictable. So we would have some coming up here, some coming down here. And then maybe, so this must be fall. Would you say it's fall? There are no leaves on my tree. And perhaps we'll just have another one here coming out this way. And this is the edge. You're not going to see beyond here. So I'm just going to thicken up my trunk a little bit so it doesn't look unusual. And you also might want to bring your branches down a little bit as they touch the trunk, because that's how they grow, a little bit more supported at the bottom. Alright, so that's it. We've just painted a simple landscape and silhouette, and you can even see the hint of the hills and the mountains here where my paint was a bit thinner. So the last thing that I'm going to need to do is sign my name on here, and as soon as this paint is dry, I'm just going to grab a little white and sign my name at the bottom. I don't always remember to do that here on YouTube, but it's important for artists to sign their work, so if you just painted along with me, you have created a piece of art, and you should sign your work. So thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon next week. We'll have another surprise for Watercolor Wednesday, and of course you can join me for some drawing tutorials on the other days of the week. See you next time.